everyone, what's up? It's Claire. Welcome back to my channel. So it's September and this time of year always makes me think about back to school and sort of reminisce on the days gone by. And I thought it would be fun to do a follow-up to my video on my channel, What I Wish I Knew During BFA College Auditions, and talk about some things that I wish I knew during my actual BFA experience. Now, these tips are pretty much directed towards theater students, but a lot of them are good life lessons in general, and I can't wait to share them with you. The first thing I wish I knew in theater school was to go into classes with an open mind. When I was in school, there were a couple of classes and a couple of professors that people had a lot of feelings about, and they would say, oh, that class is super boring, or that class is way too easy, you can wait to do all the homework till the end of the semester. Or it would be things like, that teacher doesn't know what they're talking about, you know, they haven't worked in X number of years in the industry, whatever. And I would go into those classes thinking that I knew everything, that I knew what the class was gonna be exactly about. And honestly, that really hindered me from actually learning lessons in those classes and really hearing the professors for what they had to say. Because since I listened to all that gossip about those teachers and those classes, I sort of came in with a really closed mind and I didn't think I would get anything out of the class. Which is a really negative mindset to have in college because you are there to learn, and that's ultimately what school is for. I absolutely loved school, but I loved being the smartest person in the room, more so being smarter than the professor, because I thought that was impressive when actually that just sort of, I think, would sometimes rub people the wrong way. So first and foremost, just go in with an open mind and see what there is to learn. The next thing I wish I learned in theater school is less so much of a typical lesson, but more of a mindset. You don't need your professor's approval to be a good performer. What I mean by this is when I was in school, there were a couple of professors that I really wanted their approval and to be their favorite and to be, you know, the best in their eyes. And ultimately, that meant that I was doing the work for them and not for myself. So I would work really hard in my scene study class, but just so that my professor would say, hey Claire, you did a really great job. I can see you're putting in a lot of work. Whereas I should have been doing that work for me to grow as a performer. It's really easy in school to kind of fall into that trap of approval from professors. I think that's inherently a part of school and grades. But if I could go back in time, I wish I would tell myself that I'm doing this work to help me grow and help me gain a stronger tool belt of things I can use in my acting life, as opposed to getting an A in this class just so that professor can think I work really hard. That is a life lesson I've sort of had to realize throughout my career, whether it's a professor, a director, a colleague. Being impressive is not ultimately gonna be what gets you cast. What gets you cast is gonna be authentically being yourself, being there to have fun and to do the work. So if I could go back in time and do something differently, I would definitely do this theater work to really focus on myself and not so much need approval from anyone else. This next point might be controversial, but honestly, I think everyone needs to hear it. Take a business class. When I was in college, my mom was constantly trying to get me to take a business class, and I kept being like, Mom, I don't need that class. I'm an actor, I'm an artist. The business school is so boring. And sorry to break it to you, but we all live in capitalism, and you being an actor means that you are an entrepreneur. You are literally singing and dancing for a job. You are asking to provide a service. Economy, you know, economics is the exchange of goods and services for capital, which is money. And sorry to break it to you, but you are gonna have to live somehow, and knowing the ins and outs of understanding marketing, business expenses, taxes, understanding savings and a 401k, like I've had to learn so much information about being a sole proprietor, and also for my podcast, I have a general partnership and we're growing into an LLC. And there are so many little nitty bitty grits of information that I wish I had taken a class, even just like a general business management class or even like a general entrepreneurship 101, because being an actor, you really are your own business. And they always say, oh yeah, the business side. I always thought that was, just setting up my website and, making sure I had a side job that could support me. But you are a business. You are 100% a business. And I really wish I had taken a business class just to kind of understand what it means to own and operate a small business, about how to get my expenses in order, and just sort of learn a little bit more about that world, because oh my goodness, I have been shocked and overwhelmed about the information about running a business that I didn't know. And I've said this, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but you are a business. You're a business. Getting your headshots done, that's a business expense. Taking the train to an audition, that's a business expense. If you start early and start organizing these things and treat yourself like a professional, you're gonna be that much better when you go into auditions, because it's gonna feel like a job interview, which ultimately that's what auditions are, regardless of whether they're musical theater, acting, or, I do comedy as well, and there are, calls for comedy too. So I know it might be tough to fit in another class to your schedule. I don't know about all of your programs, but my program, I was taking 18 plus credits a semester, and I also had class on Saturday. So there was not a lot of free time. But I really wish I had maybe just dipped my toes into the business world or understood it just a little bit more. The next thing I wish I did differently in theater school was really block out time to learn my lines. I know this sounds sort of obvious, but I always treated learning my lines as sort of a last minute piece of information. I would do a lot of, the text work and the backstory stuff, which is all really important to building character. And through that, I would learn my lines sometimes, but I really wish I had, blocked out as much time as I could to focus on my lines and treated it like a non-negotiable. There were so many times in class where I would fudge lines or forget something or have my script in hand, and it's really hard to actually focus on your acting training when you're focusing on finding those words. And it was something in all of my juries every semester, they were like, Claire, you really need to work on learning lines. And I know it's tough, and there's so many different techniques and ways to learn lines out there, and I would really recommend just learn your lines. Learn your lines, do it. I know it sucks, I know it's hard, but it's part of the job. I don't know if these programs existed when I was in school, but I certainly didn't know about them. There are a couple of different apps and websites. We Audition, the Cold Read app, where you can, I think you have to pay for them, but I also think there's a free version where you can log on and just run lines with other actors who are available. It's like a Zoom type program. I'll put some links to them down below. But I would recommend even doing something like that. You can book for 15 minutes and just work with someone else, and they can help you run lines. Or if you are in a cohort or a class program, just be like, hey, can you help me with lines for 10 minutes, like between class? It's really important you learn your lines, and I really wish when I was in school that I would have made it a priority and not thought it would just sort of come naturally, which is something I always thought I would just know my lines just by reading it, I would learn them. But for me personally, I've learned throughout my career that I really need to run the lines to learn them, and just reading them and going over them in my head, they're not gonna stick. I need to speak them out loud, and I need to get them in my body. So find a technique that works for you and just learn your lines. Everyone will be so much happier when you do. The last thing that I wish I knew in theater school, or what I have done differently in theater school, is learn to take a note. I didn't quite understand what direction was really until I took a directing class in my junior year of college. Okay, I want to clarify what I'm saying in this section about not understanding what direction was. Obviously, I had directors before, but I really only thought the director's job was to like create the stage picture and tell me what the blocking was. Because before I got to college, that was really all the director did. There wasn't a lot of like character development or like helping make the character choices. So what I'm trying to say here is I didn't understand that a director might want you to perform a certain way or perform with a character the way that they envision the character. because when I was in like freshman and sophomore year, I would get so upset and hurt almost when I got notes from my professors of how to do things differently. And I really wish I would have just like put my ego aside and learned how to take a note and take in what they were saying. This kind of goes back to my first point about having an open mind, but learning to take a note ultimately will make you better and make you easier to work with. Because if a director has a vision and you keep fighting them on their vision, it's just not gonna be a cohesive project or creative endeavor for either of you. Learning to take notes also involves changing your perspective and being willing to do something differently than you wouldn't have thought of. This is a really vulnerable thing that we're all doing as artists. You know, we're putting ourselves out there, whatever medium it may be. But taking notes from people who are there to give them to you is really a good skill to learn, and not letting it really hurt your ego. You know, there's all these different things about ego and the actor and things like that, but ultimately learning to take notes is gonna make you a stronger performer and gonna help you kind of have some thicker skin. I kind of hate that phrase, have thick skin, but there's a lot of ways that you can get hurt in this industry emotionally and learn how to take care of yourself too. That's kind of a different video, honestly. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video about actor self-care. But learning to take notes is vital in growing your career, you know, creating what the director is looking for, and it can help you too if you ever become a director or if you are in a writing collective and you need to learn how to give and take notes. And ultimately, just put your ego aside, and if your ego gets hurt, just, you know, tell yourself, it's okay, ego, we're learning, we're in a learning environment, and you're okay. All right, those are some of the biggest things I wish I knew in theater school or things I wish I had done differently. Now, obviously there are many things I wish I did differently in theater school, like, you know, personally and in my relationships with friends and things like that, but that's not really pertinent to today's video. Ultimately, college, university, you know, whatever sort of theater training you're getting is a really valuable time, and just have fun, and I really can't wait to see what you all do with your careers, and I know you'll be great. Let me know in the comments anything that you wish you had learned in theater school or any lessons that you'd like to share with everyone here at the Claire Malkie on YouTube. Additionally, if you would like to check out any of my other work, you can check out my podcast, Sit Still Look Opinionated. We're a comedy and political satire sketch show. That's on all the main streaming platforms. I'll also have that linked in the description. If you'd like to support Sit Still Look Opinionated, which in turn supports my YouTube channel here, you can find us on Patreon, and I'll also have that linked down below. Also, as you can see, I have some blank walls behind me. I just moved apartments. I think I'm gonna do an office tour for you all once I have it set up a little bit more, so also let me know in the comments if you would like to see something like that. Lastly, please share this video and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you know anyone who's starting school or who's been maybe struggling with what to do in theater school, send this video to them. All right, I hope you are making great work. I hope you are taking care of yourself and your environment, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.